Let's get into 5 reasons why I think the Detroit Lions could win this Sunday, but also on some good news. Sounds like the Detroit Lions secondary is finally going to get physical, in your face, and come after not only the opposing quarterback, but also their family, sitting up there in the stands. Let's get into that, and maybe just a little bit more, in today's Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host, once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, tuning in this Friday to today's version of Lions Talk Live. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing. I'd like to try to get, if possible, by the end of Sunday's game, how about 230 subscribers? We're at about 204 at the moment of this filming. So if you could do that to help me grow the channel, maybe even leave a thumbs up, a comment or two on what you think about this content in the comment section below, that'd be greatly appreciated. But with that being said, let's get into today's Lions Talk Live and talk about the 5 reasons why I think the Lions can win this Sunday. All right, we're going to start at number 5, work our way down to number 1. The number 5 reason off the bat is going to be the Lions' run game. I know we're all sad to see T.J. Hockenson leave. He was a great player, a great Lion, a great teammate. But it is what it is. The management decided to make a move, have him go somewhere else so we can work on potentially getting a few higher picks in next year's draft. So that is what it is. But here's what I think is the plus side of that. If you remember 2 days ago, we had a video where Dan Campbell talked about it briefly in his media presser. He said, hey, sorry to see TJ go, but other players perhaps can do some things that he couldn't a little bit better. They might do some other things worse. But I think with the Lions run game, it's going to get better, not just because the play of our offensive line as it's healed up and become more dominant and cohesive together, but also because of people like James Mitchell. You've heard me talk about in other videos and maybe even on other shows, but I'm really impressed with this kid. I was impressed with him in college, and I'm more impressed with him even now that we've seen a little bit of him over the last game or two. Mitchell is an undeniable physical specimen, 6'5", pushing 260. And if you look at his hands and how he uses those in run blocking, he is able to physically dominate people in ways most tight ends can't. You might have to go back to Brandon Pettigrew. Pettigrew, while he wasn't always the most sure-handed receiver, he was a monster in the run blocking game. And that's where this guy, Mitchell, really reminds me. He reminds me a lot, and I'm not trying to put pressure on him, but of Gates. If you remember Antonio Gates from the San Diego Chargers years back. The way he is able to run routes, his physicality, but also his God-given speed. I mean, this guy is incredibly athletic. And I think starting Sunday, we're going to see him out there and starting to turn some heads. And that's why I think the run game is going to get a little bit stronger because of the additional blocking and what that's going to do with a little bit larger target on play action for Goff. All right, get into the drum roll off of that into reason number 4 why I think the Lions will have an opportunity to win this Sunday. It's easy. Jerry Jacobs. For all the things we've noted, everybody, whether you're reading articles or watching YouTube or whatever, you see people talking left and right about how much Jeff Okudah has improved this season. Some of it's he's finally healthy. The other part is he's gained some confidence. He spent a lot of time in the offseason working on things, but he reminds me a ton of Jerry Jacobs. If you've seen Jerry Jacobs in person, he is one of the most physical-looking specimens in a cornerback you could ever find, similar to Okudah. I think this is what Campbell and Aaron Glenn have been dying for all season, is getting these two dudes out on the field and in your face if you're on the other sideline, coming after you. Because one thing Jacob showed us last year, he's not afraid to take a hit. He's not afraid to dish out hits and come after people. And these are elements we sorely missed on the opposite side corner. So hopefully with Jacobs, his presence, we'll have to see how many reps he gets. But as of today, Friday, at around 2 o'clock, it sounds like out of Detroit, he's not just going to play, but he may be the starting quarterback come Sunday against Green Bay. And Green Bay, I'm sure if you watched the video yesterday and you've done your own scouting on the game, they're banged up. They're very banged up in their wide receiver core. So if we can get 2 guys out there who are physical, along with our number 3 reason why I think we've got a chance to win, things could be turning around for Detroit this weekend. All right, getting into the next reason. Reason number 3 as to why I believe we have an opportunity to win. You know, the first one we threw out was the run game in Mitchell. Then we had Jerry Jacobs adding some more physicality to the secondary. But the number 3 reason for that is Kerby Joseph. Kerby Joseph, I'm sure we can all agree after watching his first 2 starts, dude is a thumper. He is a hitter. He's athletic, and he can cover. So now we're going to have potentially 3 guys out there in the secondary who can get in your face, get physical, and lay the lumber down on opposing players if they catch the ball. To me, we've got the real starts of a secondary emerging in Detroit. We'll have to see what happens in the last, 10 games or so of this season. But if you add those 3 in with potentially a Tracy Walker when he's healthy next year, you've got 4 guys who can get out there, get after you, and lay some hits down on you. And, we've all been impressed, I'm sure, with Joseph so far. I get he's still a rookie. I get he's still developing. He's going to learn. And he's going to make mistakes. But the intangibles are there for Kerby Joseph. Joseph is going to probably evolve in time into one of those rare safeties in all the NFL that has the athleticism to cover a receiver, the strength and ability to cover a tight end, and he can displace the ball on catches from any of those targets. Somebody catches it on him, as we've already seen in the last 2 games, he has the God-given strength in the upper body and the speed to lay hits like few people other than maybe Ed Reed can. If you remember, if you're a Detroit Lions fan of a few years, Delmas, he was fairly similar to that. Although I do believe Kerby Joseph has much better coverage skills. I think both men have the same amount of hitting power, coming after people downhill and laying it into them. So I'm really excited to see the last 10 games to see how these guys develop. All right, so now we're going to get into the number 2 reason as to why I think we have an opportunity to beat Green Bay for the 2nd game in a row in Ford Field. And that's going to be a split between Aiden Hutchinson and Joshua Pascal. These 2 guys are like Batman and Robin together, Batman and Superman, whatever analogy you want to use, that's them. I think they complement each other so well in what their strengths and weaknesses are, and gives defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn a ton of flexibility that wasn't there for the few weeks prior to Pascal and John Kaminsky reemerging into the lineups. I think with both of these guys, we're going to be able to get after Aaron Rodgers and, more importantly, stop the run game of Green Bay. Because I'll say this, watching Green Bay over the last few weeks, if you stop their run game, their passing game falls apart because they rely currently so much on play action to set up the pass. If the run isn't there, I think that pass is in real trouble. I won't give a prediction as far as how many sacks these guys are getting or anything like that, but I think both of them are going to have a very good opportunity to shut down the run and get into Rodgers' face. We know Green Bay to death. If you're a Lions fan, you've watched Rodgers for over a decade. They're going to try to do the bootleg rollout to one of the sidelines and hit the tight end or receiver on a deep out, maybe a few shots over the middle of the field. But whatever it is, I think with both these guys, they've got the ability to get out wide and help shut that down. Now, they're both rookies, so are they going to bite on some play-action fakes they shouldn't? Probably. But they also have the makeup ability on speed to get out wide if they can recognize the play action. And as long as we're stopping the run where Green Bay's not having much success with it and force Green Bay into more and more obvious passing situations, I'm thinking they're going to get home, and that injured shoulder plus a throwing hand of Rodgers could come into play. I'm going to throw another one out here. The number 1 reason why I think we're going to have an opportunity to win this weekend, this was kind of probably be a bit of a surprise to a lot of you. It's going to be the coaching staff. I know I have ripped apart the coaching staff throughout this season and even parts of last year when talking about them because of their lack of experience. One of the biggest problems I had with the hire of this coaching staff is nobody in a position of authority has any experience. Dan Campbell, okay, yeah, you can say he had a couple games in Miami as an interim head coach. Aaron Glenn has no experience prior to coming to Detroit as a defensive coordinator. Ben Johnson, other than a few games last year, and I don't even really know if he was the OC last year or if it was Campbell, but he has no experience being an OC in any capacity in the NFL. So all these guys have been doing on-the-job training, but the one thing I am happy to see is whether you can say the defense or Campbell himself, they've been improving, and noticeably the last 3 weeks. Just because they've been improving doesn't mean they've been perfect by any means, but the trend is your friend, whether you're talking investing or if you're talking sports. If a player is trending upwards or downwards, I would say this: don't bet against the trend. And I will just say this: the last few weeks, Campbell hasn't been making some of those very odd choices on fourth downs or other situations. He made one call on fourth down last week, and it was on special teams with the fake punt. And it was very well timed. I mean, obviously, it's easy to say it was successful because it worked. If it would have blown up and the other team would have snuffed it out, then maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But like most things in life, you win if you get the victory. You're going to get chastised if somebody does something wrong and whatever you make a call on doesn't work. But that's life. He won with it last week, and he's been limiting those situations. So it's my hope that Dan Campbell and the coaching staff continues to show growth, continues to put players in less diverse situations where they have less potential to fail. One last thing I'll make about the coaching staff is it's my hope that Ben Johnson, as he continues to evolve as a coach, goes back to doing some of the things the team clearly felt like they had to do to score points a year ago. And that was the gadget plays, the trick plays that kept opposing defenses off balance. You'll notice this year, they've done far less of it. And it's my belief, if you go back to the Washington game, remember, Washington made a comeback on us until we used basically the jet sweep with St. Brown, caught him off guard. Then we regained momentum, and then later on, Swift, catches the falling down pass, gets up and goes to the end zone, and the game's essentially over. So it's my hope, while we've started the games very strong in the first half with our scripted plays, Ben Johnson evolves and says, hey, we can do some of these gadget plays when things start slowing down to regain some momentum and take some stress and pressure off of our offense. Because let's be fair, we've got some nice pieces on offense, but there's no game changer, no Tyreek Hill or whoever you want to say, no Jerry Rice type player that we can just lean on. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Smash that thumbs up button because it really helps the channel. And if you would, leave your game score predictions in the comment section below. If you have any ideas for the channel, maybe a video or two or a breakdown you'd like us to do, go ahead and fire that in there as well. Other than that, I hope you all enjoy your Friday. Take care, and we'll see you Sunday on Lions Talk Live.